I made a mistake. And it was something I knew too, which is even better. So I'm gonna go fix that. This is how I planted elderberry. Elderberry plants get 10 to 12 feet tall and also wide. But yet I had this random idea this day, even though I already knew this. I have growing instructions. I've looked this up that day. I was like, I'm gonna put them in that garden bed. And I just rolled with it. So yeah, today I'm fixing this mistake. They are doing really good, but we just got an inch of rain last night, so the ground is really soft. I felt like this would be a really good time to do it. They've only been in the ground about a week, so they shouldn't have traveled that much. All the soil I loosened up should still be really loose on top of us getting an inch of rain yesterday. I should be able to move this. So this is what I'm going to do. Moving this one over to a grow bag for the winter. The area where I had the chickens, I'm gonna let that overwinter and let their poop compost and everything. And then next spring, I think I'm going to plant this out over here and make this more of a fruit area. I think I'm going to also move this elderberry plant here into the middle, especially since it gets so big. That would be really good. That way it has this whole space to itself. And not just be in the corner and then up against like the house and everything. So I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna go further out than where the pot originally was, and then I'm just gonna see if I can kind of pop it up in there. Oh yeah, perfect. You can see the pot is still very much intact there. Perfect. All right. I had a feeling this would be easy to move. I'm liking that everything is budding up again since they had a rough summer living in their nursery pots the whole time. Shockingly enough, a lot of my perennial stuff does really well in grow bags. I initially did grow bags a while back just because of, again, moving. So I could just easily take stuff if I need to, or just be able to rip the bag and take the plant. So this will just get planted in this area for winter. This is, I believe, a little over 24 inches, or it might be right at 24 inches. Everything I read online said if you do plant it in any type of container, make sure it's a minimum of 24 inches. And since this will really only be probably planted in this area, I would say until sometime in the spring, probably. I'm not too worried about it. Really just want to make sure that it has more soil and some mulch for winter, and it should be good to go. But again, maybe don't take my example because I clearly don't know what I'm doing. Ew, ew. That was a really big spider web. I don't know if I've ever walked into that epic of a spider web before. Okay, we'll just go around. I was more so worried about the loofahs because I keep hitting my head on the loofahs. There's been spiders in here, but they haven't been, oh my gosh, building their webs. What a moment. All that for some worm castings. You know, they haven't moved. I don't know if you can see or not, but there is some really pretty new growth going on. I think I have a hair tie. I do. This elderberry here is called Instant Karma. It has really pretty variegated leaves on it. So I'm really happy it's starting to bud up just like the other one as well. Hi. So one question I've gotten with the elderberries though is, will these pollinate each other? So like many fruit varieties, you need different varieties to help cross-pollinate each other, I think is the term, or just pollinate each other within a certain radius. That way they will produce a good amount of fruit for you, and these will. So this is a black lace, that's an Instant Karma. I would like to get the other one, I believe it's called Black Beauty. Those three all together will cross each other and all that. But I don't need another one in this space. I think 2 will do it, especially if that one will just keep going and we're here for a while. They might get pretty big. I was just walking by and this space looked amazing the other day, and now all of my seedlings are being completely ate up or already ate up, because there was enough where I needed to thin out this whole section, and now I can only see maybe 10, 12 of these plants, and I don't have any more of these seeds either. At least I have like regular bok choy over here. Oh no, but it looks like it's getting ate up by roly-polies as well. Okay, so I typically don't mess with roly-polies, but in a situation like this where I have all these greens and they're getting ate up, because it looks like that's the case for over here as well, minus the lettuce. I'm gonna go grab beer and I'm gonna make some beer traps. Nothing like cracking open a cold one at 9 a.m. Am I right? But if you haven't had Yingling Oktoberfest, it's great. I'm a big Oktoberfest girly. Love me an Oktoberfest. Okay, so any shallow dish like this is just the base of a terracotta pot. This is an old cat bowl, another little dish, mason jar. I'm just going to fill all of these with some beer. So with the plates here, I'm just going to push back some of the mulch and place it in to the ground. That way they can crawl in and then they'll be attracted to the beer and then they die. I typically let roly-polies go, but they only really become an issue when it's like greens like this. I feel like it's always an issue when it comes to the greens. To the homies. Came over to check on the squash and this one just detached itself. I think these are ready to go ahead and be harvested. You can see that stem is completely dry. Since we got that rain, I don't want any more of these to crack. I actually had an issue with some cracking, and since we got such a heavy amount of rain, I feel like that is going to be an issue. So any of the ones that look ready to go, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest. I'm actually shocked that it just fell straight off of the plant. Obviously, if your stem has completely dried off and the vine has also completely died, your plant isn't going to do anything further. But another way to check if it is ripe enough or good to go for long-term storage is you can poke your thumbnail into the skin, and if it doesn't leave any type of indentation, that skin has like cured and set long enough to where you should be good to go. They will also kind of lose their vibrance as well. Like these ones turn more of an orange. They start off green, turn more dusty, and then yeah, the vine is completely dying. This whole vine is completely dying back. These fruits have been here for quite some time. Ah, exhibit A of another reason I really wanted to harvest. Cracks. Most of these are good to go. There's a few I might leave, but most of them are getting harvested. That's sad. At least it was the tiny one this time. Look at all of these beautiful honey nut squashes. So honey nut is a hybrid of a butternut, and they're a little bit more of a personal size little squash here. I have found that they are deeper in flavor and a little bit sweeter. So I'm really excited about having this harvest here. I defeated the squash bugs, guys. I got my squash harvest. I'm very excited right now. All right, so with the rest of these squashes, I'm going to just set them out here to lay out in the sun for the rest of the day. And then I believe I'm gonna go ahead and move them to my curing station just to help cure the skins even further now that they are off of the vine. With them being smaller, these work great for just throwing into dinner, or I really wanna make butternut squash soup or honey nut squash soup in this case. I harvested a honey nut squash so I could make that into a pumpkin puree. If you didn't know, most pumpkin puree is actually like a squash variety. And this honey nut squash is pretty sweet, so I think it's gonna work great as a pumpkin alternative. I really wanna make some scones today. For some reason, for me, it's so much easier for me to wake up early during the summer than it is the fall. I love the cool air we get during these like early fall mornings. It's a struggle to wake up. Even though I don't have a bunch of stuff to do, I've still been trying to get up early during some of these mornings that I typically would during the summer. That way I can just sit, watch the sunrise, be with my garden a little bit before it's gone. We are like in our last 3 to 5 weeks before frost comes, so what is here is going to be gone pretty soon, minus a lot of the cool weather crops. So I've just been trying to soak it all in, embrace the last little stretch, even though there's parts of it that look completely chaotic and my zinnias look an absolute mess. But the zinnias are still doing their purpose. They are feeding the bees, they're feeding hummingbirds, they're feeding birds with whatever I haven't deadheaded. So at this point, it's kind of just a smorgasbord of what is in the garden and what will still be here. But every time around this time of year, I think it will get a little bit easier, but I always still have this pull that makes me a little sad that summer's coming to an end. Fall was always traditionally my favorite growing up, and then as I started to garden, summer really quickly became my favorite. But the thing about summer is so crazy busy and there's so many things to do, and I really just dive headfirst into that busy season of life that when fall and winter really start to approach, I really start feeling the want to slow down. So I have been a little bit like hesitant these last few weeks to really embrace wanting to slow down, because I'm really kind of sad that summer's coming to an end. But yeah, I'm really happy that we're starting to get into this next season, because I want to do some organizing. Like, summer is so crazy busy that a lot of like my organization and just overall things around the house, I feel like need a good deep clutter revamp. It just hasn't had my attention. I want to play with some more recipes, new recipes. I want to spend a few hours in the kitchen without feeling rushed or preserving something. So we are approaching that season, and it makes me really, really excited. But it still makes me a little bit sad that this is all going to be gone in roughly a month's time. This garden was really, really pretty this year, and it did so many great things, and it did really well, and I'm really excited about how the year turned out. There's still a lot that I would like to tweak and change. I'm actually really excited to have a blank slate pretty soon. It's one of those things that once you get into your gardening season, you can't change too much once certain things are planted, but once the season is done, you can really take what you've learned from this year or things you want to change from this year and really embrace that and throw that into the following year, which always gets me excited during winter to do all of that planning and imagining on how the garden will look in the summer. I will say, as the sun rises later in the day, we have a lot more car traffic that you hear during this time of day as the sun rises because of school buses and just a lot of car traffic. It's not like the quietest little spot here. So that's one thing I really miss, because during peak summer, the sun starts to rise between like 6 and 6:30 a.m. and it's so silent. You can hear the birds, and it's just this little ounce of quiet that I love. Well, looks like our roly-poly trap did something, so that's cool. So this year I grew white sage, which was something I was really, really excited about. I found these seeds and I love the smell of dried white sage in like a smudge bundle. So that is what I'm gonna do today. I'm going to make little sage bundles. Unfortunately, this is not a perennial in my zone, but I do think I'm going to move this plant inside over winter. It was fairly easy to grow. It did take a while. I started these seeds, I want to say end of January, beginning of February, but wow, does it smell amazing. I've grown culinary sage for the last like 4 or 5 years now, and it's very easy to grow. It's a perennial here, and I haven't had to regrow it in some time. But you can see all of this new growth here at the bottom. So I'm actually just gonna go through and get any of this mature stuff off, trim this plant back a bit, and use this stuff up. Alongside the sage, I went ahead and picked the rest of the basil I had in the garden. So I can't get to this for the next few hours because the paprika peppers are still finishing up in the freeze dryer. But I'm gonna freeze dry this basil, and since I can't get to it for the next few hours and I wanted to harvest it around this time of day, I went ahead and just stuck it in a glass of water or a mason jar of water. So I love doing this with all herbs, especially if you buy it from the store. You can typically get a lot more length out of your herbs, a few weeks sometimes, especially if you change the water. But I'm just going to put a bag over this just to help make sure it doesn't get too cold, but the water and everything will help it stay really fresh during this like little length, and it won't get all droopy or sad and whatnot. So I can get to it in a few hours. Out of all my lettuce, I only had one of them decide to bolt, which I'm pretty happy about because I planted this and then we had a stretch of over 100 for a week and I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull this one and give it to the chickens. I have some more downstairs. I think I might transplant out a few. I plan to keep a good amount of those downstairs under lights, but I might put a few out. I think 77 might be my favorite temperature. It's cool, but it's not chilly, and it's warm enough that I can wear shorts and feel comfortable, but yet wear a light sweater. 77. Sometimes I feel cold when it gets below 75. I think 75 to 80. That's my favorite. By the way, I ran into that spider web again this morning. I completely forgot it was there, and the spider rebuilt overnight. I thought a few of my broccoli plants looked a little bit more holy than they were. I don't spray or anything, and these are just some cabbage moss. They tend to bounce back relatively quickly anyway, so I don't ever really worry about it, but I'm gonna give those to the chickens. So on top of these caterpillars here, I noticed yesterday a bunch of this caterpillar poop, right? And I noticed this guy, and I'm happy he is still here so I can show you. That is, I believe, a white woolly bear caterpillar. This is the second year I've had these in my garden around this time of year. I got some caterpillars for you. I am so glad I didn't just try to go grab this squash bug. There is a spider eating the squash bug. This dude is having a feast tonight. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You don't even know. We got another cantaloupe. I was walking by and I noticed that it was detached. I smelt it. Smells so good. I prefer growing cantaloupe over watermelon. There, I've said it. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and go in for the evening, make some dinner. Another thing I love about this time of year, even though I hate it getting darker earlier, I love feeling like I get a little bit of an evening back. Because when the sun sets at like 9:30, I'm typically out here until that time, and then it's like nighttime and I have to go to bed. But when it starts to set just a little bit earlier, I get to relax just a little bit, and that makes me really happy. So I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna make some dinner, relax for the evening, but thank you so much for spending a few days with me. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye.